course, a lot of people are coming to Ghana for especially the party season, but there's also the opportunity to meet others and think about, how to engage more, what business opportunities there are, how to do it, essentially. And so at Songhai, we thought, okay, why don't we just bring together people who represent, those that are actually doing interesting projects on the ground, and really hear from them. So, that's the spirit with which we're here. So I'm going to turn myself to you, Jennifer, because with the work that you do at GUBA, you have the GUBA Diaspora Network. And a lot of us have heard about GUBA, especially because of the awards. But could you fill us in a bit more in terms of the Diaspora Network and the sorts of questions you're hearing mostly from your members in terms of the business opportunities and so forth?
Thank you very much. So just in a nutshell, GUBA has 8 different projects underneath the GUBA Enterprise umbrella. So I run one of the projects. This is my 10th year in GUBA, so I've been in GUBA for a number of years, managing and leading different projects. 2 years ago, my CEO, Lady Denta, she felt the need to set up the GUBA Diaspora Network. And the GUBA Diaspora Network is a membership community of diasporans from all over the world. Some are based in Ghana, some are not in Ghana. And we basically help people get things done. Ghana is, it has its own sort of terrain. And being a diasporan who has lived outside of Ghana for many, many years, coming back to try and integrate, transition, just connect and do business in Ghana, it's not always easy, simply because the systems are very different. There are systems in place in Ghana, but sometimes what you find is that the systems on the website or the procedures on the website, the guidance books and all the information that they provide you can be very different to what's on the ground. When you go to the office, when you go and speak to people that work in the organization, you find that, no, madam, this is how you do it, because that's just the way things are done. So how do you inform and how do you educate people on that? So what we do through the network is that we have a one-to-one with our members. We find out their specific needs. Some people are just looking to reconnect. We've got the whole group of African Americans who want to find home, they want to find belonging, and so forth. So they want to engage in their heritage. We've got maybe Ghanaians born in Ghana that have lived outside for many years who want to reconnect. I mean, if you've lived outside of Ghana for even like a year, you come back, things are slightly different. You have to of reconnecting, and that's what we try and do. In terms of some of the questions, and I don't want to use the negative words, but issues that we face, there are lots, but it doesn't mean that we stop, and they can never, they can still be overcome. I mean, we get a lot of people that do want to invest. Everybody wants to invest. There's a whole shebang where everybody literally wants to come to Africa. Everybody wants to invest. Everybody wants to buy property or whatever it may be. But how do you go about doing it? And just as you see the landscape, there's lots of development, lots of buildings, lots of houses. People are doing stuff. You can see it just walking along the street. You see all developments. But then how do you know which development is for you? Or how do you know which opportunity is for you? And, what I love about Ghana, and this is what I would say, is that Ghana I see as fertile ground. I used to live and work in UK for many years before I came back. Ghana is very fertile. There's still lots of things that are not set up or established in Ghana that people can actually bring and set up, if you want to call it that. And at the same time, in doing that and looking at these opportunities, you have to understand that if you are not careful and do your due diligence, you can also get duped and, the usual whatever. So how do we kind of navigate that? And that is what we are trying to help people do. Just to put a little plug, I've got an event coming up on the 2nd of January. In about 4 days, in about 4 or 5 days time, and it's called the GUBA Diaspora Conversations. What you do find in Ghana is that everybody's got their own opinions. Everybody's got, no, do it like this, do it like that. So how, as a diasporan, do you navigate Ghana? We've also got diasporans that have lived here for a couple of years or so, and they are talking about the reality versus the dream. Because in Ghana, or in Africa as a whole, we've got the whole African dream. Let's come to Africa, let's do this, but what's really on the ground? What is the reality? We see lots of Instagram posts, we see lots of things happening on social media, everyone's having fun, but then what's happening when you are in the actual country? And then we've got business professionals to come and also talk about the business terrain, the do's and the don'ts. And, it's an opportunity for people to really be informed about how to connect with Ghana.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. That's really, you've covered a lot of ground there, and I think what you said is so apt in terms of doing your homework really well, do your due diligence, and, obviously there are lots of issues, as you said, that you encounter invariably when you change countries and continents, but the important thing is about being well informed. So I'm going to turn to you actually, Krystal-Joy, because I know that you also were in London, like both of us here as well. But you aren't of Ghanaian heritage, but you decided to move to Ghana.
Right.
Would you be able to share a bit about that story, and then also weave in Women Wellness Africa and how important that network has been as a sort of soft landing for other women who have come and who are based here?
So I'm born in London, but my mother is from Guyana, my father's from Sierra Leone. My husband is Ghanaian, hence why we ended up here. But also, Ghana was an easy choice just because of everything that's going on here. From the outside, it does look it could be a bit skewed in terms of what it looks on the outside, right? But the reality is that there are lots of opportunities here, okay? And it is what it is. I think for me, the reason why Women Wellness Africa came about so much is because, looking for that network and looking for women that were also, very ambitious, and that had a lot of experience in their own field. I come from an advertising background. I've been working in digital advertising for the last 15 years, between London and New York. And then I was also in Barcelona for 12 years before moving here. So someone that, is quite international. And the network has been beautiful because of women from all over. I mean, a lot of them also are Ghanaian, but, with international influence or experience. And it's been really, really beautiful, to be honest. And your question about why it's so important, why it's been really important. Well, I've noticed, the women that are from the outside, they have some difficulty actually with landing. Like, how do they land? How do they know who to trust, right? And what's so great about this network is that the women are connected in their own way, right? So if they're like, okay, who do I need to speak to about, if they're a lawyer, for example, I want to start a business, or I want to buy property, like, who do I go to for, surveying the land? Or who do I go to for, even wellness related things like, chiropractor, all of that. And, this group is fantastic because we give recommendations, true, tried recommendations. And I think that's what Ghana has got to be about, right? Not just winging it and going for anybody, but it has to be, people that are tried and tested, just like anywhere, really, right? So, that's the most of it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Krystal-Joy. And I can definitely vouch for that, because the group, it feels that, of course, there's a lot of information sharing, and as you're saying, vetting and vouching for, trusted suppliers, but then also the softer things, where do I go to do or, you know, where's a good place to go out to eat, and these sorts of things, because moving countries is not just about the job, it's a lifestyle change, and being able to be in the midst of a network or an ecosystem where you can be informed about the day-to-day, you know, is really important. So kudos to you for that. Yeah, really well done.
Can I just say also, you know, it's really important that we find places where we can be vulnerable as well, because, I mean, I've relocated 4 times in my life, and some of these, you know, women, these people, it's their first time relocating, so to have a space in which you can be, you know, vulnerable and answer those deep, you know, questions is also really important and part of the wellness of relocating, especially, you know, to Africa.
Very true. Thank you so much for that. JOT, you humbly describe yourself as just a creative, but really and truly we are in the midst of, you know, playwright royalty here. Anything to do with folklore, culture, writing, acting, you know, JOT's your man. So I'd love for you to share a bit more about your journey, actually, because the creative industry is very broad. And sometimes coming from, you know, potentially sometimes traditional families and so forth, going into the creative space is not, you know, the careers that we have mapped out for us are only 3, lawyer, doctor, and engineer. I'd love to hear more about that journey, getting into the creative space, and then also what you can share in terms of navigating that. And you know, we've heard about the trust issue, and I'd love to hear more about the sector itself and how it is, what it's actually like.
Okay, good evening once again. Well, I've gone through that lawyer bit before. I was asked to do law, and you've got to be a rebel to be a creative in this country. So I turned it down flat. You know, my dad went to Legon and bought me forms and said, go and do law. And I said, I won't do law. You can sack me from the house. We went through all of that. Because there was no way I was going to do law over being a creative. I loved theater. And so I found myself in that space. It's a very difficult thing to be a creative in this country. I mean, I've also lived abroad. I lived in London for many, many years as well. And coming back to Ghana, I found that things were not the same. And so we really had to start from scratch. And one of the things that we decided, or I decided to do with people in my group and my fraternity, is to try and tell our own stories. Because every movie that you watch on television is somebody else's story. And the movies that are done by Ghanaians, for example, are not even Ghanaian stories. So I made a conscious effort that in my place and in my writing, I'll have to tell the Ghanaian story. And so that's what I've done for the past 15 to 20 years. But it hasn't been easy because, like you rightly said, as we have focused more on what I call formal jobs, being a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, and we have neglected the very obvious things that would change this economy and change the country, the creatives. Now, a friend of mine yesterday was talking about, why aren't you going to Dirty December? And I'm like, what the hell is that? But the whole concept of Dirty December on year of return and beyond the return is hinged on the creatives. The whole concept of that. So the 1.2 billion that is going to come into Ghana this year that is all through the creatives. Music, dance, tourism, all of those things are part of this whole broad creative industry. I don't think Ghana is ready for the change in the industry. It will take political will, it will take people changing their mindsets. Too many Ghanaians are being westernized. And I was just telling my brother that the mindset of our young ones is not Ghanaian. And when you have people with a mindset that is not their country or their culture, it becomes very difficult to bring them on board to do things. There are many people wanting to be something else, but you can't be something else. I tell my students that if you go out and you buy Brazilian hair, your DNA is still Ghanaian. You may have long Brazilian hair that you've just spent 4,000, 5,000 cedis on. It doesn't make you Brazilian. It still makes you Ghanaian. You're still Ghanaian through and through. So no amount of what you do will change your DNA. So why are you trying to be what you are not? The truth is, let us look in the mirror, every one of us. Look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you really see who you are in the mirror? And the truth is, what you see in the mirror is fake. It is what you have created. The real you is not what you see in the mirror. And many of us are trying to be what we are not. So I try to bring people or try to help people to believe in themselves and believe in who they are. And that's what we do in my creative space, in my writings, in my work, is trying to get people to believe in who we are. And I think once we get to that point, then we'll see the changes that we want to see. But for now, we plod along.
It's very, very deep, Jot. I'm touching my hair now and I'm thinking, yeah, very profound. The question about who we are, looking in the mirror, you know. Well, I do want to come back to you on a point, actually. So why do you think that young people are resisting who they really are, if they are doing that? What do you think is the reason as to why they are sort of adopting other cultures, or, you know, and rejecting their own? What's at the heart of that?
I think there are two reasons for that. One, Ghana's opened up so much to the diaspora. And so you have quite a lot of people, especially from Year of Return a few years ago. Statistics say we've had close to 4 or 5 million people come through since the Year of Return. And people are seeing the other side of the world. People are seeing people like them, same color, same skin color, but doing different things. And so our young people try to be or prefer that kind of life. Isn't it ironical to find people on the other side wanting to come home and be part of what we have here, and then our young people wanting to go away and be like them? And I find that very interesting, but that's one of the reasons why, because too many of our young people want to be like people on the other side. The other thing is also, it's a cultural thing, the way we teach our students, what we do. Even the education system is all based on a system that is not us. So you go to school to learn the British culture, for example. Everything we do is based on the colonial system, and it hasn't changed. And so we grow up wanting to move to the UK or wanting to move to the United States, rather than saying, hey, we've got universities in Ghana. I never went to a university abroad, but I think I'm held much better than a lot of people who went to university abroad. And that should tell you something, that it's not about going abroad to a university abroad, which is great if you can, but it's also about what you do for yourself as an individual. And so I think there are many things that, you know, has corrupted, if I can use that word, the minds of our young people. And it has to do with what they see and what they are told. And boy, social media is a huge influence.
Well, I think this is an amazing segue to bring in Isaac, because Isaac, you are an amazing painter, artist. I first got to know of Isaac because maybe some of you have seen his work. I saw it in Accra. There's a beautiful mural down there, and, you know, just on the bottom was his number. I was like, you know, this is amazing. I want to know who painted this. And then I discovered it was Isaac, and I saw his work, and he's done so much. And what I love about your work, one of the things I love a lot about your work is the fact that you are telling the story of your locality, and there's a lot of allusion to education and empowering the young people, and loving what it is that you've grown up doing and what prevails in your locality, and really celebrating that, and not trying to be anything else. But Isaac, I'd love you to come in there and just share a bit more about what got you into art and how important it is for you to tell the story of your locality and so forth.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think I'm actually going to continue from where Mr. JOT stopped. Yeah, because yes, you find me doing all those things I'm doing now, because I collected them, homely. It's what I'm doing now, it's things that I've gone through, things I've seen over the years, things I've wished to change. It's what influenced my art. For instance, I grew up in a broken home. To be honest, I must be honest, I don't know my father, that kind of thing, yeah. He did whatever he wanted to do with my mom, and he ran away, find himself with another lady, and he keep moving. So growing up was quite tough. Yes, I've always had, I've wished for a better way, to grow up than the way I grew up. Yes, my mother got married to another man who is a Togolese, and in their culture, nobody takes care of who they didn't give birth to. So they have a way of managing me. So I found my way out by, hustling through the streets of Labadi, by going to fetch sand from the beach to sell to people when they needed them, or fetch water for them from the sea. I realized now it's becoming a problem for me because it's quite heavy. And then, I was having some health issues, so I stopped. And then there's one lady in the neighborhood who fries buffaloes. So I went to her and I'm like, how can I work with you? Because I want to survive. I want to find money to, take care of myself to school and all that. So she was like, okay, on weekends you can come fetch buffaloes on commission basis. You go sell, whatever commission you make, you can have something to support yourself. So we started, and gradually, even before that, I've always had passion for art. When I should see an art on the wall, that place becomes my home. I can go seated there like for hours. I don't go angry or anything. I'll just be there watching. So during the course of selling the buffaloes, I found one man in a particular house openly, and he was practicing art. His name is Mr. Maxwell. So he also, begin to buy buffaloes from me. So what I do is when I go, I know how much he buys. I serve him quickly. I don't take the money. Then I run to the other areas to finish sales, and then I can come and sit down and watch him whilst he paints. But I didn't know I was collecting, much from what he's doing. So it's continued for a while, and then I said, okay, what can I do to keep me coming to this man, even if I finish selling my buffaloes and go home, I can still come to him. So I made a friend in that house. So after everything, I can still go back there to visit the friend and watch him paint. And then, unfortunately for me, my friend and the parents have to move from that house. So they moved. And luckily for me, my friend was also the one supporting the man with painting his canvas for him. He sends him around and all that. So one day I got there and was like, he wished the guy is still here. Like, would you do this for him, that for him? And I said, I can do that for you. Because there have been many times I'm with him when you send him. I was like, okay, if you can do that, then after sales, go home, go make your account and come back and help me. I'm like, wow, the dream is, it's about to be a reality. So I started going back to him bit by bit, and then he began to support me properly. So I told the woman I can't do both things by going and also learning this. So I want to fully concentrate on that one by learning the art. So I had a chance to be with the man for consistently like about 2 months, and then you also have to relocate from the neighborhood. But thanks be to God, I was able to collect few things, so quickly because I have the passion already before he left. So I started painting on my own, the commercial pieces. I started going to the art center, the Oxford Street, was trying to sell for people. Others love it, they buy it at a good prices. Others too love it, but they still cheat you, I said, no, let me just, continue doing what I do, because I was, I became very happy doing that. So I realized, how can I also, change some of my friends who are moving just like around and, don't have anything to do, they don't have proper parental care like myself. So I started painting the openly, same way I found the man doing. And then I began to, put my friends on, Charlie, do this for me, do that for me, go and sell this thing here. When they come and we find some small money, we eat together, I give them something small. So we keep moving, and eventually everybody discovered himself. Most of them move, from the neighborhood, others continue different occupations, others went to school and all that. So yeah, this is how it's been from the start. But I collected few things which I think I'm still with and I'll forever live with, and I will make sure I impact as many people I can impact with. That is being on the street, it's good, but it's not safe. So the neighborhood itself where I grew up, it's a fishing community. And I realized after seeing myself through education from, I think about primary 5, I started supporting myself through SHS. I'm like, it wasn't easy, but it was a good thing that I tried to, do that for myself, because I realized my thinking, was shaped at least in a way better than most of the people. So what can I do to correct those things for those kids? So I begin to travel deep down within myself, and I'm like, okay, let me just open my doors wide for the kids in the community by putting some small money down every day when they come around, even just to spend an hour with me before they leave. Take this 2 cedi, take this 5 cedi to buy yourself water or biscuit. So they will come, instead of walking around, without doing anything or going for fishing, which was so bad, because you find a kid like that as low as 11 years going for fishing. For days, parents don't care whether they go to school or not. So yeah, I opened the door in a way that they begin to choose between coming to my studio or going for fishing. And they found my studio to be more, easy to work in, instead of going to fishing and it's dangerous. They sometimes stay for days on the sea and all that. So they started coming in their numbers. Now and then I begin to think, what can I do to, inspire them properly? So I thought of education, how we all started learning, and I discovered we've lost one part of our education system from the basic schools, which make learning a bit more interesting. And that is the learning boards, the black boards that we learn on with inscriptions. I realized, yes, those things are washing, they taking those things off, and they were introducing the white marker boards, which is so blank. When there's no teacher in class, you can't learn on your own, you can't do anything on your own. So same way education is becoming boring from that basic level. So I said, okay, let me go to the schools and ask them if they still use those things. And I realized some few schools still use it. Others are keeping them down and throwing them, burning them away and buying the white marker board. So I told them, come on, I want to collect these things. I want to use them for art. Others were, a bit confused. Are you going to use the handwritings of these kids for something, for some ritual? So I said, no, I just want the boards, the empty boards, at least the used ones. So others, gave me old ones. I bought new ones for them. Those who are still using it. So I collected all those pieces. And then I said, okay, cool, what can I do now? And I got copper wires. So I asked the kids in the community that, what, we are going to do holes in these ones, and I want you to bind them with the copper wires for me. They said, okay, cool, we can do it. I make few samples for them. They saw that and they became more interested in doing that. So we collected them in their numbers, and I realized when they are binding it together, they begin to challenge themselves. Hey, can you say 2 times 2? Can you say A, B, C, D, up to Z? Okay, then they'll block it, say it and let me see. Then they begin to challenge themselves. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, this will work. So now when they finish forming them for me and I make art on them, I try to sell the art, And when I get a good price for it or a low price for it, I come back to them. Charlie, do you know what we are doing here? It's good. Because what I do is I actually make pictures of them and draw them on those boards for them to feel they are heroes. They are important. You know, so when I come back to them, I say, Charlie, the drawing I made about you, people like it. This makes you so special. So you know what? For you to become what I'm portraying you to be, you have to go back to school. You have to take education serious. You know, they became more interesting. I'm like, okay, so what is the problem? What is, you know, stopping you from going to school? Oh, I don't have a shoe. I don't have a bag. Because I wasn't going to school, so my name I've been cancelling from the school. I've been cancelled from the school. But I take them back. What I can apologize for, I do. What I can buy for them, I buy. If I have to look for a different school for them, then I do. So, you know, I take them back to school. And now we've taken for about 26 children back to school. Others have completed junior high school. Some are going to the senior high school. Others, they have a good result. So we're finding a way for them to re-sit again, you know. And I realized, yes, when I was a kid, this is what I was wishing for. Somebody to be there to at least buy you a pair of shoes, buy you books when you needed them. Because I was quite good when I was in school. I remember I was the boys prefect when I was in primary 6. And my uniform was very old, in fact, very torn, and I had to patch it and all that. But I made sure I keep it very neat. So something happened. There's this teacher I respected so much. I expected her to at least, knowing I'm a good student and, you know, I'm trying for me to come to school all the time, at least she find a way to support it. But she rather called me in front of the class and called another guy who, you know, is from a good home, and I was asking my people, among this guy and this guy, between this guy and this guy, who do you think is supposed to be the school prefect? And most of the guys said the other guy because his uniform is nice and all that though. And it really hurt me. I felt very bad about that. So I'm like, no, I will make sure, you know, no kid sees what I saw on that day. So, I mean, let's just support each other. And, you know, I've been supporting them, they've been supporting me. By the grace of God, now they are the same people who even give me ideas, you know, tell me, you know, you do somebody like this, do you know, if I do this for you and take a picture, it would be nice. Then I make pictures of them, I do them again, and we're good to go. I think it's just been communal labor, like me and the community, and eventually people are buying into it. Are buying into it, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, that's amazing. Really hearing again from me, but sharing with everyone here your personal journey and how that has inspired the work that you do, and then the impact you're having on the community. But then also that it's symbiotic. You're also continually learning from them as well. And in fact, we were talking about that earlier on, Krystal-Joy and I, about mentorship. And, you know, no matter how high you rise in your career, and no matter what field you're in, having people around you who you can trust, or the right people to guide you, is really key. And so even thinking about it from a wellness perspective, do you have any tips, any pointers for those of us around here who are maybe in you know, entrepreneurs or whatever field they're in, but need to find the right sorts of people to help to guide them on their journey? And are there any pointers around that?
Okay, so in regards to finding the right people, yeah, I don't know if I would, I mean, we were talking about mentorship earlier, actually. I was just telling her that I'm starting with a new mentor in January, and explaining also that she probably has her mentors, and so on, right? It's a really beautiful thing, actually, to be able to share your experiences. I'm also a mentor to others, right? And yeah, when it comes to like who you surround yourself with, and also who you let into your energy field, you know, I think we already know wellness is quite trend. I think past the pandemic, everyone understands how important it is that we are selective, right? We have to be very selective about who we let in our field. And in terms of like who we work with and choosing the right people to work with, I think that there's two things. Obviously, everything looks good on paper, right? You want to make sure that people are what it is that you're looking for. But I think that our intuition and our gut says a lot to us. And that's part of wellness as well. Like, what is your gut telling you? And at the same time, trialing is also like very good. Like trialing people and getting to know them personally. Like the people that are in my team now, I get to know them personally. I make sure I do one-to-ones with them often. I also look after them as well. What do they say? They say, look after your team and then they'll look after your business. Like, because that's really what it is. I'm very particular about who I have in my space, but I also recognize it's really important to look after your team. And I work for companies such as MTN. I do their retreats, their wellness retreats for their C-suite, and various other companies. So more and more companies are recognizing how important it is for wellness activities with their teams and things. So, small, as they say, but wellness is not just trend. Like, it should be a part of everything that we do professionally and personally.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not just a fad. There's a need for it, and I think that definitely I can relate to how post-pandemic, everything was disrupted, right? We were in our rooms. Some of us became entrepreneurs. Some of us were, trying new things, new ways of doing. Financially things have become quite different and maybe difficult for some of us. So, really knowing how to take care of your core was not just a nice thing to do, it was necessary. And I'd love to hear from you, JOT, because I know that you are a deep thinker. I know that. And you've been in your industry for quite some time. I'd love to hear your thoughts in terms of just, you mentioned that being a creative, you've had to buck the trend, you're, quote unquote, you're rebellious. And what kind of spirit does one need to have in order to, really go against the grain, especially in a place like Ghana, which is relatively conservative? What sort of tips do you have in terms of, inspiring us to maybe keep going in spite of the odds when, others may be thinking, what on earth are you doing?
Well, I think for creatives, one of the things that I always tell people is that, and I think you said your intuition and your gut go with that. The difficulty we have with most people in this space is that we have a lot of parents who tell their children what to do. And that is a problem. And so most children grow up doing what their parents told them to do and never get to the point where they decide to do what they want to do. And so it becomes a very difficult thing. So you have a lot of people who are very creative, or they showed some creativity when they were young, and as they grow up, they just leave it. They become your usual lawyers and your doctors and your engineers and forget about all the creative stuff. So it's a very difficult thing. And recently I had a session with my students, the parents of my students, and I said, and one of the, I teach in a fashion school as well. So, and in Ghana in the past, only the dropouts from school and only those who didn't pass their exam went to do fashion design. And even though it's changed now, because now you have everybody wanting to do fashion design now. And I spoke to one of the parents, I said, and he was complaining that his daughter did very well in the senior high school, and she wants to do fashion. And he wanted her to go to KNUST, and she didn't want to go. She wants to do fashion. So I said, what's wrong with fashion? And he said, no, but fashion is for low-life people. So I got a bit upset with him, and I said, with all due respect, would you strip? And then he said, oh, what do you mean by strip? I said, you're wearing clothes, aren't you? Who put those clothes on your back? The fashion designer. So if you don't like fashion, then strip and walk around naked. Sometimes I get blunt like that, forgive me. But then he understood the point, because it's important for us to understand that a lot of us are very creative. We're born like that. Unfortunately, circumstances draw us into other things. But that's not to say you can throw it away. You can be a lawyer and still be creative. You can be a doctor and still be very creative. You know, you don't have to saddle yourself, especially where we are in this part of the world where you have just one thing doing. You need other things to do as well. So the creative space is very welcoming, even to people who think they are not creative. And I think that it's important that we all find that little creativity within us, and you'll be surprised how far that will take you as you go along.
Thank you. Yeah, we each have it in us, and it's important to nurture it. And I guess it also comes back to that point of surrounding yourself with the right sort of people, but having that intuition as well, knowing that, okay, there's a still small voice inside, and really respecting that, because sometimes the external voices can be quite loud. So it does take a certain character to be able to say, no, actually, I'm going to push ahead. I'm losing track of time because I'm really enjoying myself up here, but I also know there's an item 13, as we say in Ghana, on the agenda, which is something to eat on. But I would love to know if there are any questions from the audience. This is a very intimate space, we should feel amongst kith and kin. So does anyone have any questions for any one of our panelists on any topic area that we've touched on? Please don't feel inhibited at all.
Yeah, hi, thank you. So my name is Nathan Ofori, and one of the quick questions I have is, normally when people are thinking about moving down to Ghana or Africa and they have a good idea, the idea is as good as how it's marketed. So how did you market yourself to find whatever you're producing to be easily offtaken? Because there's lots of ideas, but it's who's going to buy and where is it going to go?
Brilliant. Is that question directed at anyone in particular?
Yeah, in Cuba, of course. I think I'm the only entrepreneur, because of wellness, so I am a qualified yoga instructor. So when I first came here and was marketing my yoga, business, remember, yoga here in Africa is very much like, is it a religion? Like, what are you going to do with me? And then also talking about wellness as well. Wellness, what is that? I'm fine. I go to the doctor. I'm fine. So I was introducing something quite new. And I do come from an advertising, marketing background. And so I think that helps me to navigate a little bit. When I first got here, it was definitely like, okay, so who's going to be in line with what it is that I do? And how can I make what I do palatable for Africans or for Ghanaians? And I reached out to Decathlon, Adidas, and in the end, Adidas sponsored me. I was the ambassador for the first 6 months of me being here. And of course, a brand like that makes things a bit more palatable, right? So it's just about finding really creative ways to market yourself. Nothing is impossible, and you're right. There are a million ideas, and ideas that could probably do very well here. But the way that you enter the market, especially if the market is here for you, you have to be creative. You have to think about what platforms do the best here. That's television here, radio, believe it or not like, elsewhere. And internet is coming now. Social media is starting to pop. LinkedIn obviously is a big one here as well. So yeah, it's a really, really good question, but you have to be creative in your marketing and get to know what works here if your market is here.
Hi, that's an interesting one, because what I do find with people that want to move or transition or connect is that, you know, growing up, it used to be where people of my parents' age would want to come back to Ghana and want to establish something. So they would probably kind of join, you know, with family, friends, and kind of, oh, everybody's doing crockery hire or chairs and tables, you know, so just kind of join that bandwagon of what's the trend at that point. But now what I do find is that you are getting people in some of the high-end professionals, investment banking, and now they're coming to Ghana and they want to do farming, fish farming, you know, something completely different, because what they are also finding is that maybe it may have been an industry that they wouldn't have thought of, but they are seeing a scope. And that also entails them to look at how they market or how they do things differently in business. You could have had a business in America, US, Canada, wherever it is, and you've established it, set it up, and run it in a certain way. But coming to Ghana, coming to Africa, you have to understand the terrain and the way people think, the way people warm to you. Ghana is very much about communication, relationships. You cannot come to Ghana, think that, yes, you're high and mighty, you're going to be teaching everyone. No. You'll run back to wherever it was that you came from, because Ghana, it's not, you know, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. So it's very much about, I wouldn't say learning completely from the beginning again, but I would say, you know, they use this term, is it shine your eye, or, you know, keeping your eyes open, like, you know, just understanding and being a bit more open. And yeah.
My advice is simple. If you have a business you want to run in Ghana, don't spend your first 3 years doing that business. Come into Ghana, understand the country, live with the people, understand the people, go back. And then when you return, you'll be better placed to start a business. That's what I would say.
Wow, thank you. In fact, I want to bring in Isaac here because the question was about marketing. And Isaac, you are an artist, and you have had to not only, I mean, your craft is that, but you've also become a business person in terms of going to the galleries and selling your story and selling. I wish your artwork were here on display because it's really something to see. But could you talk about the marketing that you've had to do on the business side of selling your work?
Okay, yes, it was a difficult one some years back because we don't have enough galleries in Ghana. I visited Johannesburg some time ago, and just in Johannesburg, they've got 135 galleries. In each community, they've got like 4 small galleries and then a big gallery. So it makes the job there more easier. You know, you don't suffer to get your works on there. But here in Ghana, it was difficult. Sometimes there's no even space in the galleries for new artists. You know, because it was only Artist Alliance Gallery and the Loom. And a few small galleries, you know, you can't just go there with your work. So what I did personally is I found a way to market myself by acquiring a shop at the Labadi Beach, where on weekends, you know, there are a lot of people coming in. So what I do is I do small art, keep them in a shop, get it open, and then I use the same ones from the community. They pick them from the shop, go in, show it to people. And when we find out they want to see more, then they bring them to the shops. Yeah, so I started marketing myself from that angle. So, you know, as you are doing that, your quality goes down. You can't really have a name for yourself if you're doing that. So I did that just for a while to, you know, get some few good contacts where, you know, people can now call you, you know, we're putting up this building, come and see what you can do for us. You know, so we started going, you know, small, and then, yes, luckily for us, you know, galleries start coming up. Yes, and artist residency to start coming up. But even with that one, you know, some of them have you're supposed to be sending a particular messages with your artwork before they feel you are qualified to be in there. So I was using more social media, like just Instagram at that time, to make sure I put up proper things there. And then once in a while, sponsor it for people to see. And then the numbers were, beginning to increase. Galleries were also coming through. And then, I also started using this process like whom when I found out you are of a position, you are a bit connected, and then I come in contact with you. I make sure I share with you on a daily basis what I do. So you can also share with your friends, and through that, the numbers were increasing. And thanks be to God, as we are doing that, we're also trying to increase the quality of the works, do something new to make it more interesting. And then small, there's few galleries that came up and they were interested in what I was doing, like Sit on Art from Johannesburg, the La Gallery, Atusua Kwaje, and currently the Number 9 Gallery, which happens to be, I think with the La Gallery, I did the inaugural show for them, the opening of the whole gallery, same with the Number 9 Gallery. So I think it's not better here. If you're an artist in Ghana, I think this is the best time to really show yourself. Because thanks to a few of our brothers too, like Amwakubuafo, he did very well for himself, by promoting these things from Austria, later moving to Ghana, building everything here, drawing all the attention on us here. You also allow people, because I personally feel he created a movement for himself where he's talking about black art and black artists, and he allowed people to follow his trend, and then they pushed it together. So now attention is really on us here in Ghana. Well, my question is, would you go join the trend? So after some time when the trend fades, what becomes of you? So I stick to myself and also taking advantage to prove myself right at this time for me to be recognized. So yeah, I think coming in as an artist from anywhere around the world to Ghana now, it's a good time. All you need to do is find out how to, get yourself into these top galleries, and also, through collaborations. Through collaborations, we can always, shape ourselves. Yes, so this is how far it's been. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think that's a really brilliant note to end on, actually. Mentioning collaboration. There's us being here together. I'm hoping that this is, hopefully the start of us being able to collaborate more together, to share ideas, to build relationships, because that's something that has also been mentioned quite a lot on this panel, the importance of, good relationships and building trust. So on that note, I think we'll draw this part of the evening to a close, and then move on to us, getting to know ourselves more. There's food that has been served, and there's drinks here, but at this juncture, please help me in thanking each one of my panelists, because it's been a wonderful, engaging conversation that I hope we can keep on continuing. So thank you.